Greetings, kids. Bishop Vedder here, your bishop. Good to be with you again. I got another book for you. Josephine Nobisso, Portrait of the Sun, A Tale of Love. All right, let's see how this goes, kids, huh? Not long ago, not very far away, there lived an exceedingly good and rich man who delighted in collecting the world's most precious works of art. This man's love for his collection was vastly surpassed, however, by another love, and that was the fatherly love he held for his only son. Even before the boy was born, the father had had him in mind where he created his collection and provided for future masterpieces. The father's collection had been created indeed just for the son, and the son loved it as much as the father did. The father and son enjoyed such spirited discussions about the works in their mansion that it seemed they scaled the mountains of their landscapes and rode the winds over the solemn waters of their seascapes. They thrilled in discussing the mechanics of their mobiles and sculptures, but especially they loved studying their various portraits, entering into the subject's very lives. Even though they were perfectly happy in their mansion and they wanted for nothing, the father and son never regarded the outside world as being far from them. Filled with the spirit of giving, the son kept their beloved estate keeper and her staff busy day and night. No one who knocked at the door was left unaided, and the estate keeper often brought to the son's attention even those who didn't knock. This woman who oversaw the workings of the immense household proved to be more than a mother to the son. She spared herself nothing in helping him take care of the people, so that all the more the father's merciful heart swelled with generosity toward them. One terrible winter, war broke out in a foreign land where hardship and chaos reigned, and the son was called to serve his country there. Every day for 3 years, the young man sent home letters of love and longing for his father's house. He explained that during the fearsome and lonely hours in the trenches, he told his fellow soldiers about life in the mansion, and that men in turn said that these descriptions made their suffering and waiting more bearable. One stormy spring day, instead of a letter, the estate keeper pressed a telegram into the father's hand. His only son, the beloved, had been killed in the war. While the sky roiled in darkness and thunder racked the earth, the old man went out to his garden. The heads of the statues and even those of the flowers seemed bent in grief, and the dear old man wept. The father made his way to his vaulted study, his glance roving the piece to piece of art, lingering sorrowfully on the portraits. He closed the door, and the servants wondered if he would ever come out. After 3 days, the estate keeper's gentle knocking awakened the old man from a marvelous dream about his son. She guided the wheelchair of a young soldier into the study. His hands that bore recent scars, the soldier clasped a package wrapped in crumbled newsprint. The father glanced at the headlines, "War and Rumors of War." "Your son was like a brother to me," the soldier began. "To all of us." The father's heart thrilled. Someone who had known his son in the foreign land had come to his home. "This is for you," the soldier continued, as the estate keeper helped him unwrap the parcel. "It isn't enough," the young man said, "and it isn't good, but it's all I have. I couldn't rest until I decided to give it to you." From within its covering of tragic news, a startling painting emerged. It was a raw and unlearned portrait, but it made the father gasp. "That's my son," he exclaimed. The painting certainly resembled his son, but it showed his noble features battered and piteously disfigured. "He's got those wounds," the soldier explained, "saving many a man." As soon as he handed the painting over, the soldier found himself giving the old man a most respectful salute. The father studied the painting, experiencing a certain share in his son's sufferings. "Sir," the soldier whispered, "I was the one your son was carrying the moment he was shot down." The father took down the masterpiece that hung over the hearth. In its place, he hung the portrait of his son. But that's the place of honor, the soldier protested. Your son told us about that. The father smiled. Come, he said, leading the way. Tell me everything my son told you about my house. The estate keeper wheeled the soldier from room to room, while the young warrior recounted all that he could remember of what the son had said about each object. With the words of his son impressed upon them, every creation seemed transformed, full of new possibilities. Everything bore the mark of his son now, and the son's words were the very spirit of what the father's would have been. Never would the kindly old man look at the works in his house in quite the same way again, and his tenderness toward his collection increased. As the year passed, more and more stories of the son's gallantry reached the old man's ears. He took on the charities his son had especially loved, and he treated his son's friends and wards as his own children. His art collection increased in value until it was the richest and most complete in all the world. The father's personal favorite piece remained awkward and unschooled painting over his mantle, the portrait of his son. And it was on this very image that he was gazing when the Spirit moved him to offer his entire collection at auction. The father consulted with the estate keeper and decided that the son would have liked the event to be scheduled on Christmas Eve. And so it was done. Every pulse in the art world pounded with greed when the wishes of the old man were made known. A crowd of museum directors, art dealers, private collectors, and secret bidders assembled at the father's mansion, ready to snatch up his grand estate. The hall was full. Even with some of the father's wards, the people who had come to consider the mansion as their refuge, and even with those who had wandered in just to get out of the cold. According to the old man's wishes, the auctioneer began. The painting is to be the first offering of the evening, this painting. The portrait of the son was unveiled. May I have an opening bid, please? The buyers sat stunned. Is this some kind of joke? A man sneered. Another murmured, we didn't come here to bid on the work of some amateur. A woman called, yes, bring out the masterpieces. The auctioneer insisted. This is the work we must offer first. The estate is unyielding at that point. Now, who will take the portrait of the son? Again, there was disbelieving quiet, but it soon became an uproar. Insulted and in a stubborn rebellion, the buyers refused to make even a token offer. That face is so wretched, a lady said. I can't stand to look at it. All the while the poor man had been gazing at the portrait. He was one of those who had come often to the mansion, begging help and always receiving it. He had never allowed himself to be befriended by the father or the son, or even any of the servants. But suddenly he recognized the son, as though he were alive in that picture. And he saw what a noble young man had done for him, and what he had suffered for his comrades in arms, so that the secret thoughts of his own heart came tumbling out. I want that painting, he cried. I never wanted anything as much as I want that painting. Will $7 do? The auctioneer waited. Will anyone bid higher, he asked. The art buyers shifted in their seats, looking away from the unsettling portrait. They fidgeted with their watches and adjusted their collars. The poor man who had just placed the bid experienced the desperate sensation that someone else would offer more. I'm giving all I have, he cried. $7, the auctioneer murmured. He waited again. The art buyers turned away from the sorrowful portrait. Going once, going twice, 3 times, gone. The auctioneer's gavel slammed the podium. To that gentleman standing there. Jeers and cheers went up as the buyers dug into their seats, preparing to bid on the rest of the collection. One man couldn't wait for a certain statue to be shown. Another lusted after a famous cityscape. A couple worked out a scheme to be at the top bidder of an etching, and an agent of a secret buyer stood ready to pounce on a particular illuminated manuscript. The auctioneer was gathering up the papers on the sand. Allow me to wish you a good night, ladies and gentlemen, and a very Merry Christmas. For the third time that evening, protests arose and cries rang out. Get on with the bidding, the auctioneer announced. I'm afraid the bidding is over. Over, the buyers cried. Yes, over, the auctioneer confirmed. What about all the father's works? They called. A man pointed, insisting, I want that mobile of the sun and the moon and the stars." "It's gone," the auctioneer explained, approaching the old man to take the $7. "It went to this fortunate gentleman here." Everyone stared dumbfounded. "What do you mean?" "You see, ladies and gentlemen," the auctioneer explained, handing over his stack of papers to the stunned old fellow, "according to the wishes of the Father, whoever takes the Son gets everything." The end. That's a good story, huh? That's just like our Heavenly Father, who promises us whoever takes His Son gets everything. So kids, let's take the Son, Jesus Christ, into our hearts and into our homes every day. Tell Him that we love Him and know that the Father, His Heavenly Father, says to us, whoever takes the Son gets everything. God bless you. Know my prayers and pray for me. Bye now.